So today I wanted to talk about the story of when I broke up with my ex, and how I kind of decided to start dating her. The things that I learnt about myself after the breakup, and some of the things actually really just changed how I identify with myself. So I thought I'll just share this with you. If you're going through something similar, maybe you can relate. But it's quite, for me, it's quite an emotional story for me still. I still feel it quite heavily. And so basically I broke up with my girlfriend a couple of years ago. And in that relationship, I was the bad person. I broke up with her for a reason that I know now wasn't really that good of a reason. So yeah, I guess it'll be interesting for you to see maybe from this perspective of, because usually you hear about people breaking up and, they're always the good one. But actually in this story, I was the bad one. So yeah. So anyway, it was 2023. I was living in London. I was working, just focused on work. I used to be a career-focused person. But I was having issues with my health. I had all these stress-related issues. And basically my therapist said maybe I should consider being more social. So I started being more social, started going out a bit more. And as part of that, I thought, hey, why not let me try date someone? So anyway, I did what you usually do. You go on dating apps, talk to people in real life, and anyway, I found this girl on a dating app. She wasn't the type I would usually go for at first. But I just messaged her. She had this thing about chess. She likes playing chess. I also got into chess recently at the time. So I kind of just messaged her about the chess thing, and yeah, we got talking, and it seemed like we could connect. So I thought, why not? Let's just do a video call. Because in London it's quite expensive, and also, I thought, why not save some time doing a video call rather than going through a date and then ending up, wasting all that time finding out, I can't really connect with this person. So we did a video call. The video call was great. I felt a connection there. Anyway, we started seeing each other. I remember the first few dates very clearly. And yeah, she was very different to all the girls I've previously dated. She was into philosophy. We really connected mentally, basically. And that's important for me in a relationship. But there was always this thing in the back of my mind that she wasn't really my type that I would go for. So I guess I should explain what my type is as well. So she didn't look like the type I would usually go for. And I guess this sounds kind of shallow, and I guess I was, or maybe in still some ways I am still pretty shallow, but in a lot of ways I've changed quite a lot after this relationship. But let's say she wasn't, 10 out of 10 in terms of looks, say. She was really good looking. She is good looking. She's a beautiful girl. But she wasn't what I would usually go for. So that was always in the back of my mind. Yeah, it was always like there, basically. But everything else was great, We were aligned, like, spiritually, politically, mentally. We liked doing the same things. We could just talk for hours. We would just be in the kitchen, just talking for hours. And yeah, it was good. It was good. And then, it kept on going for a couple months. It was great. It was summer in London. I remember telling her, this particular memory really sticks out for me. We were like hiking up this hill in Dulwich in London, which is it's just a nice village basically. And there was this hill there, and it was sunny, and we had a picnic, and we were asking each other really good questions, like learning more about each other, and I remember finishing up the picnic, and we walked to this point in the hill where it was really sunny, and I was just like, wow, this is beautiful. Like, you could see the whole skyline of London, and it was just beautiful. And I was looking at her, I was looking at the skyline, it was sunny. She was dressed in this nice red dress, and, everything has been going great, like how we were talking and stuff. I don't know, I just felt like I just told her, like, wow, I think this is the happiest day of my life. And we kissed and stuff, and, it was good. It was really good. But this thing still was in the back of my mind, and I really thought that if I just focused on the connection, this thing would go away, right? This thought that maybe she's not really my type, right? So that's what I did. So I tried to look at the connection only. I tried to value the connection more, and I kept telling myself, maybe if I showed or acted like I really, really liked her, which I did, but I guess did it more, I would forget that other thing in the back of my mind. I don't know if that makes sense or not, but that's what I thought anyway. And, it may not be right or whatever. I guess you could call it love bombing. But I really thought that, I did really like her, but if I just kind of smothered the love on her, and, it would show myself emotionally that other thing in my mind doesn't matter, right? So anyway, that's what I did. So I told her a lot of nice things, I told her she's my girlfriend. Told her that, she looks like my wife. I was just like, wow, you really look like you could be my future wife, kind of thing. I was just saying something like that. I was teasing her about a ring. We met each other's friends. I met her mom, her family. And, you know, I wanted it to work. So I was committed and I wanted it to work, right? So I was trying to do all this stuff to push that other thing down. But I couldn't. It just kept coming back in it again and again and again. And I was like, I don't know if this is this normal? Am I going to be feeling like this the whole time? And, you know, prior to this, I had been in serious relationships where I committed to someone else before. And probably maybe that left some kind of mark on me or some kind of unprocessed emotions on me. But anyway, when it came to committing to this particular girl, I just couldn't commit. I you know, I'm still pretty young, and I thought to myself, like, if I commit now, you know, is that it? She's my wife, and am I going to be feeling like this for the rest of my life? Like this doubt in the back of my head. And I knew it was wrong as well. It was such a superficial and shallow thing to think about. And I don't know. I mean, there were other things, not only her looks as well, but there were other things that I had doubts about. Sometimes she wouldn't be completely vulnerable with me. If we were going to raise a family together, I wasn't sure about the money side. You know, I'm still I'm stable, but I still have questions about raising a kid, and I want a couple kids. So I was thinking about that. So there were still other doubts, and putting that all together in a package, I just wasn't sure about her. So then there was this one day, just one second, I'm just going to check if this thing is still recording. Yeah, it is. Okay, cool. Just wanted to check the setup is still there. So anyway, there's this one night where, I don't know, we were cooking, I was cooking like eggs or something like that. And then she said, I asked her, do you want some eggs? And she was like, no. And I was like, are you sure? Like, I'm cooking eggs now. I mean, I could cook a few more eggs for you. And she was like, no, it's fine. I don't want you to do any more work than you already have to. And I was like, no, I mean, I'm already cooking eggs. If you want eggs, just tell me. I could easily just crack a few more, right? So I don't know, that kind of, it made me a little bit annoyed. You know, up until that point, I was feeling like, because she was quite a lot younger. She is about 6 years younger than me. And I guess there was this feeling of, I don't know, there was this feeling of like me being kind of like a mentor to her in a way, like a mentor and mentee sort of vibe going on in the relationship. I felt like I had more power in the relationship. And, you know, for me, in a partner, I don't know, I guess it's important for me in a relationship to feel somewhat equal with my partner in some ways, right? I don't know. That's how I felt anyway. And so I didn't feel that with her. I felt like, because, you know, I was planning all the dates. I was, you know, sexually, I was putting in most of the effort. She would, she would obviously contribute. She would pay for stuff. That's fine. I don't particularly mind about that. But it felt like there was a lot of effort from my side. And then coupled with my work and stuff, it felt like a lot of effort. Although I liked doing it. I really liked going out with her. I really liked spending time with her. It just felt, I'm not saying I don't like it. I'm just saying like it just felt like it was just effort sometimes, like trying to plan everything. And sometimes I would tell her that as well. I would say, it would be nice if you could plan something sometime, and which she did, which is great. I really liked that, she really listened to what I said. I really liked that about her. She really considered what I was saying. Everything. So she did change some of that. Like she did plan some dates, and sexually as well. She did, she wouldn't initiate any sexual stuff with me, basically. But that was fine for me. That was fine. But it'd be nice, of course. It would be nice sometimes, right? You know what I mean? It would be nice sometimes to have something back, right? So yeah. So it was great. Yeah, it was great that she changed. She was willing to grow within the relationship. But anyway, back to that egg thing. That kind of triggered me into feeling like I felt like I was being put on a pedestal. And that I don't know, it just triggered me, and that started this whole argument about being put on a pedestal, and then it just rolled into more other things, and it kept going and going and going. And the truth came out about this feeling that I had in the back of my head, basically that I wasn't sure if I wanted to be with her. And it all came out, and it was like, she was crying, and I was feeling like shit. Yeah, I did have some thoughts about it before as well, while I was dating her. Like, can I really keep this up? Can I really not fake, but like push this thought down? Like, can I just live with it? And it felt disgusting almost to have this thought in the back of my mind, like, because it was like a superficial thing in my mind, and in my own identity, I guess I would see myself as a good person, right? Like, I'm a good person. But this thing was like, it was like going against that. It felt like, shit, am I a bad person to want that? There's something wrong with that. And everything else in a relationship is great, but why am I focusing on this one particular thing? So I felt bad, me and my friend joke about it sometimes. And I don't know if you've seen this movie called Killers of the Flower Moon, but basically the main character, Leonardo DiCaprio, he's this guy in the wild west in the US back in the day with American Indians and stuff, and he basically married this American Indian woman to essentially steal her property. So I felt like that. I felt like a bad person. Like, I felt I was kind of, I guess, manipulating her in some way or using her in some way. It felt wrong. But at the same time, I had this thought that I really liked her. I really loved her. I really, really loved her. But back then, I didn't know it. I really didn't know it. I didn't process my emotions. It was just all in my mind. It was thoughts. It was just all thoughts. So anyway, after the argument, that basically she was like, if you don't commit to me now, you're never going to see me again. Basically, she said something along those lines. And I was like, I need more time. Like, I need to talk to my friends about it. And she was like, how much time do you need? Talk to your friends now, right now. And let's hash this out. So I just was like, shit, I can't, like, I need more time. And, if you had to make me pick right now, I don't want to marry you and commit to you and have this feeling in the back of my mind. So I thought, okay, like, whoa, let's just stop it right here. So I broke up with her, and I just told her the truth I really told her the truth, like, about that she's not my usual type. And like, I just told her everything. And yeah, and she left, and we didn't talk for a while. I felt kind of numb. It was around November 2023, and we didn't talk for a couple of months. She messaged me on chess.com asking me how I was. She said she still cared about me, and on Instagram as well. And that made me afraid. Like, I didn't want to get back in a relationship with her until I sorted this thing out in my head. So I was afraid of her messaging me, and I just wanted to, like, process this shit. Sorry, I don't know. I guess I can. I don't know. I'll blurb that swear word out. But anyway, I wanted to process it, so I didn't want to get back with her yet. So anyway, we had a final sort of goodbye. We met and we talked a lot. And we met in this pub basically, and we talked. And she said she hated me, and how could you do this to someone? She's a human being. Like, how can you do this to a human being? Why can't you just be honest? And I agreed, but it wasn't like, she's quite black and white, but I'm more, I guess, with regards to my emotions, I'm less black and white. I'm more like, yeah, it was wrong, but yeah, also, I really liked you a lot. But yeah, I also have this thing in the back of my mind, and it's like, how do I go through all that? It wasn't so black and white for me. So we talked it out. I cried. I was surprised she comforted me. Like, while I was crying, I was like, I thought she hated me, She gave me this really heartfelt letter. I read it instantly in front of her, 'cause I just wanted to know what she said. Said goodbye on the bus. I could still remember seeing it, like, just waving bye to her, and I was, crying, and I could see her just waving on the bus, standing there, and we were just looking at each other, as the bus takes off. Yeah. So then, yeah, we didn't talk for a couple of months. Then in March 2024, she messaged me. She said she forgave me. She said she kind of knows what she thinks she kind of knows what I went through, because I think she went out with someone else, and she probably felt it with that guy, maybe. That message also scared me, because I still wasn't sure. I really wanted to sort this thing out in my mind, because this thing that I had, I knew it was wrong. or not wrong, but it was something in myself that I didn't know where it was coming from. So I wanted to sort that out before I dated her or dated anyone else for that matter. And, I just hadn't done that yet. I was working, I broke up with her, and I was just kind of like just doing my thing, in London. So yeah, months go by. I decided, I want to go back to Malaysia because that's where I grew up. I'm half Malaysian, half British. And I haven't been back home to Kuala Lumpur in a while. In more than 5 years, I hadn't been there. Hadn't seen all my family, my friends. And also, I haven't seen my dad since I was about 15. And in 2024, I was 32. So, I thought maybe seeing my dad, going back home after so long would give me some answers, right? It would give me some kind of clues to why I have, I guess, this, where those thoughts come from, like, and why do I think I'm a bad person? And, my upbringing, it might shed some light on that. So, yeah, so then, I sorted it out with work. I traveled to Malaysia. I first went to Hong Kong where my dad was staying. I stayed there for 2 weeks. That was crazy, seeing my dad after more than 15 years. That was like, wow, that was crazy. Then went to Malaysia, saw my friends. They're all married now. They got wives and stuff. They got kids. I dated someone in Malaysia for about a month. And I feel like that whole trip was quite, especially dating this new girl in Malaysia, it really helped me see the contrast in who this new girl was and my ex, and it broke me down. Because I hadn't processed what I went through with my ex, it really broke me down. I was like crying. I was like, I clearly value the qualities in my ex. Like, I really liked her a lot, actually. And not to say this girl in Malaysia was bad or like, she wasn't a good person. She was great. She was super honest, and I really liked her she was super authentic person. But I realized like what I actually value in a relationship, and she, I guess it's a sensitive thing to talk about, but she didn't really fulfill that cup of what I wanted. Maybe it was 50% full, say, and I just wasn't feeling it. I wasn't feeling it. So through that whole journey in Malaysia, Hong Kong and stuff, it just broke me down. It was like, I knew what was important in me. I knew what was important, like what I valued as a person in myself, and what I valued in my partner. Like I could clearly see, like, wow, okay, I actually, this is what I like in a person. Like, this is how I can fall in love with a person. If this person has all these things, I think I can fall in love with them. I could clearly break it down like that. I really analyzed it, and my friend also helped me out a lot. He's not a psychologist, but I think he should be. He really broke it down for me, and I was feeling terrible. I was feeling just terrible. I was feeling guilty as also with this new girl as well. Like, how do I tell her I'm not feeling it? and I didn't want to repeat the same thing that I did with my ex, and I was crying as well in front of that girl. Like, I was like, shit, basically I'm repeating what I did to my ex to you, and I started crying again, and like I was just feeling terrible. So then, yeah, and then after that trip, I thought, I want to reconnect with my ex. I want to reconnect and see if there's any chance there. Because I realized that I actually really love her. I really deeply love her. So then I moved from Malaysia to Bulgaria. My ex was Bulgarian. And although at the time when I was planning to go to Bulgaria, I was telling myself it was more of a thing to save money, because I can work online, I can work remotely. And I thought, it was more of a thing to save money, and I like skiing. So, the skiing there. And I also thought, I want to find a girl who was similar to my ex, because I just really liked her so much. I wanted to go to Bulgaria to find another her, basically. But now in hindsight, I think going to Bulgaria was just my way of trying to get close to her, or trying to be close to my ex. Just any way I could, subconsciously, because I love her. In fact, I actually, some of the things she changed in me was like she had this thing for rollerblading. I actually took up rollerblading, and at the time I thought, yeah, it's just a fun thing. But now that I think about it, it was me trying to be close to her. But yeah, I started journaling because she said I should journal. Started journaling, and then I went to Bulgaria, and I was waiting for the right time to call her. I didn't know when was the right time to call her, but I just wanted to tell her everything of what I went through, and I really processed where that thought came from. And it's basically, I don't know if you guys know, but it's this thing called a shadow. And a shadow is essentially parts of your personality that you repress or ignore, or you're not even aware about. And when those thoughts I was talking about, when maybe she's not all that attractive to me, or she's not really that my type, that was my shadow that I was projecting onto her. And essentially, your shadow is not something bad per se, but it's just part of your personality that is unrefined. And so when you express that side of your personality, it may come out as something that is crude or brutal or like harsh in a way. If you think about that story, Dr. Jekyll and Hyde, the Hyde, I think that's the monster. That's kind of like how your shadow expresses itself. It's in a crude, brutal way, right? So that essentially was my shadow projecting onto her. And just meeting my dad and going through all my childhood memories, going to Malaysia or childhood where I grew up, I could see how my upbringing created that shadow, which essentially my shadow is the shadow of perfection and trying to impress other people and trying to perform and trying to be impressive, That's my shadow. I have more shadows, but that's my main shadow. So my shadow projected that onto her, it was like saying, you know, maybe she's not that good enough, it was really nitpicking. It was like, maybe she could be a little bit more of this, or she could be a little bit more of that. If she's gonna be your wife, then all your friends are gonna be introduced to her. Maybe you want her to be in a certain other way, so you can impress your friends. I was seeing her more as like a, well, not me, but I guess my shadow was treating her like an object. It was like kind of like, she was almost like an accessory to me, like kind of like a, if, because I guess in society, right, when you see a man with a really attractive woman, that says a lot about the guy, right? I guess you could say that he's successful in some way and has money, so I was projecting that onto her, and I didn't know at the time. I was doing it, but I didn't know I was projecting it. I was like, I was in that thought. I thought that was my personality, but it was my shadow. And now that I've retraced all my steps, I could clearly see my shadow, and I was like, wow, this is so crazy that I've been living with this shadow for my entire life, and it's basically been affecting all my relationships without me even knowing it, and all my relationships, not even with my partner, but people at work, my friends, just people on the street, in public, even I guess with myself as well. Like my own relationship with myself has been colored by the shadow, and I was going through all the moments that I could see the damage done by the shadow, and clearly the damage that is done with my relationship with this girl. And it was just so painful being aware of it, because before, like, I wasn't aware of it, so it wasn't painful because I wasn't aware of it. But now that I'm aware of it, it just hurts so much knowing I've been like this. So anyway, I sent her a message. I said, hey, do you want to talk? She said, no, I think I've said everything I need to say to you. I don't want to talk. And in my mind, like, this is probably going to be one of the last few times I'm going to talk to her. I really wanted to share with her what I've learned about myself, maybe with the hopes of reconnecting with her, but I know what I did to her wasn't good. And I hurt her. I really hurt her. And I guess by reconnecting with her, I thought I could redeem myself. I didn't have to live with the guilt anymore of me doing that to her and feeling like I was a bad person. She was my redemption, So I wanted to explain to her what I went through, where these thoughts came from, and the story of how I discovered it, and I wanted to tell her I loved her. I wanted to tell her I loved her, because if I didn't, that was going to be the last time I could tell her. So I just sent her voice notes. I just sent her like a shitload of voice notes telling her all the ways I loved her. I just sent it to her, and she came back to me. I was surprised she came back to me. She was like, she said she wasn't going to respond, but she said, she thought it would be rude if she didn't respond. So she suggested a call, and I was like, wow, a call, like this is my chance. So we got on a call. I voice called her because I don't know, I just it's been some time since we last spoke. It was like more than, I guess, about a year since we last spoke. So I called her and she suggested a video call. I was like, oh, okay, that's a good sign. She wants to see me. I guess that's a good sign. So anyway, we talked and I explained to her. She said she's happy for me that I found this out about myself, and it's good that I saw my dad, and she was happy for me. And she was holding something back. I wasn't sure what, but then basically I found out that she was seeing someone else, which destroyed me. It on the call I was trying to keep strong. I was trying to not show anything. I was just trying to accept it, basically. It was really difficult. It was just, okay, yeah, I guess I'll have to give you space, and I respect your decision, and I hope you're happy. And I was trying to convince her a little bit, to maybe not leave her boyfriend, but before I knew she had a boyfriend, I was trying to convince her to, like, it could still work. It could, it could still work, because at least we know the problem. In many relationships, you don't actually know the problem, but with us, we exactly know the problem with each other, and we talked about it, and she basically said, she wasn't sure how it was going to work, because for one, she moved out of London and she's with this guy now, but let's say if she wasn't with this guy, she didn't know how it was going to work, because she would always be feeling insecure, right, with how I'm feeling towards her, and I would always be feeling like of having to reassure her all the time, right? And honestly, I don't mind doing that. I wanted to commit to her. I didn't care if we had that dynamic in our relationship. I was ready. I was like, in my mind, I didn't really care. I was like, yeah, it's a problem. It's going to be a challenge, but relationships are always a challenge, right? So I was like, fine. Yeah, but of course, she had a boyfriend, so I was like, I just had to give her space, which was so difficult. It was so difficult. So yeah, we talked for 4 or 5 hours. It was like 5 a.m. and it was like, I'm just going to go to sleep, basically. I was numb after that. I didn't feel anything. So I slept, and then in the morning when I woke up, I just started crying like mad. I was like just crying like mad, and yeah. She told me, let's not be strangers and stuff, and that was really confusing for me, because I guess I knew we couldn't really be friends, really, but yeah. Just 1 second. I'm just gonna check if this thing is still recording, because it's been a while. Okay, cool. Yeah, it's new for me doing this setup, so just wanted to check, but. Yeah, that was confusing for me, and yeah, I didn't know what to do. I was just sad. I let go of myself. I didn't stop going to the gym. I stopped eating properly. I didn't want to go out. I was in Bulgaria. I was supposed to be skiing, but I didn't. I was just feeling so sad and depressed. I was just, I couldn't do anything. I was just paralyzed by the pain. I just regretted it so much. I just wished to myself, why didn't I work on myself sooner? Why didn't I'd do that sooner. Maybe I could have been with her. Maybe things could have been different, and we could have had a whole life together. I could see our whole life together. I could really imagine it, and it would have been good. And I was just beating myself up. I was regretting it. I talked to my friends. My friends were trying to help me, and they really helped a lot. But it was just so difficult. It was just difficult, and the thought that helps me get through it is basically, I had to kind of go through this to find out about my shadow, because if I never went through this pain, I would never have put the effort into finding out more about my shadow and more about myself, and learning more about what I love in a person, the values I value in myself, the qualities that I value in my own self. I would have never have gone through all this effort if it didn't hurt as much, right? And there was no other way. I couldn't have known this before because I didn't know about it. So there was no other way it would have worked with her. So in some ways, I feel like me and her meeting was kind of like this. It was like a fated thing to happen for me, I think. I think we were soulmates, I think. Soulmates in the sense that, these two people are supposed to meet each other and change each other in some way, and not necessarily stay with each other for forever and stuff, but soulmates in the sense that you're supposed to come together and it's supposed to be a significant change, right? So I really believe she was a fated sort of a soulmate type of person in my life, because I changed a lot after meeting her. I realized what I value, and basically everything before her was about career, money, status, passive income, trying to make money, trying to, what people do, right, in this world. But after meeting her, I was like, you know what? I don't actually value that stuff as much as I thought I did, because clearly, like with her, it was more meaningful. It was more things like just the connection and relating to another person, being present, family, just the simple things, talking to someone who you really connect with. Like, that is so rare of a feeling. It's so special. So, I value those things more than money and all this other stuff, right? So all the stuff I was doing before, I was like working on a YouTube channel. I was, working hard at work, stressing out about that. All that was just wiped clean. It was just wiped clean. I literally, it was like baptism by fire. It was just wiped clean. And I feel like I became a new person after that. So, then basically after Bulgaria, I moved back to Bristol. Not back to Bristol, but I moved to Bristol because my mum is here, and I thought I want to spend more time with my mum. And yeah, I haven't really messaged her since then. I mean, we did say Merry Christmas and stuff, and her responses are very, like, I could tell, like, she doesn't want to. She's friendly and stuff, but she's not wanting to reconnect with me in any way, which is fair enough. I understand, but it's been 6 months since I moved to Bristol. This whole experience, learning about my shadows, learning about my values, learning about what love is to me, learning what I love in other people, it's really changed me. It's really changed how I approach life. Like I'm not that bothered about how I come across to other people. I mean, I still am bothered, but not as much. It's softened. And I've started meditating. Like I meditate 30 minutes a day, and I feel like that's helped a lot as well. Like that's I feel like it's just almost too painful to not meditate. I had to find a way to just detach myself. And through that whole meditation, I've learned other things about myself, my other shadows. I've really pinpointed all my different, like, where these shadows originated from, how my personality developed when I was a child, where everything came from in my whole personality. And I've really gone deep into myself, and like there's things that I want to let go of in myself and surrender to. And yeah, I don't know. I just want to say it's just been really, like I've just really changed a lot. I'm not who I was before, and I think I just want to thank my ex for going through this whole thing with me. I know it's not been easy. It's not been easy. I wish it was different, but thank you for going through this with me, and I've learned so much about myself, and I think it's for the better as well. And I hope you've learned a lot about yourself, and I think it's just been a net positive overall. I'm happy that I don't have to carry the shadow around with me anymore, and I don't pass on my baggage to my kids and my shadows to my kids as well, because it's kind of like this, there's a familial shadow, there's a societal shadow, there's lots of different shadows basically. But I just want to thank you, and if you ever do watch this, I still love you. I still really love you. Or at least my memory of you. And, we don't have to reconnect or anything. I'm happy to leave that in the past. But I just want to thank you, and yeah. So I'm just going to continue on this path. I'm just going to continue letting go of my shadows, and just living more authentically, living more present in the moment, and doing things that would make my 5-year-old self happy, right? So forget all this shit about money and whatever. And I mean, obviously it's still important, and obviously it's nice. I'm not an idiot, but it's less of a priority for me. So yeah, I don't know how to end this video, but I don't know if you guys relate to this in any way. Just leave it in the comments below. And I think relationships are a mirror of the relationship you have with yourself. That's not my quote. I stole it from somewhere else, but I really do believe that. So, if you've gone through something difficult with your partner and it's been terrible, I would suggest some compassion, because let's say your partner broke up with you, or maybe they're an asshole or whatever, they've gone through something in their life that is causing them to project some certain things onto you which they may not be even aware of, right? And just have some compassion for that and have some awareness on that, and awareness for yourself as well, because you might be projecting things onto your partner that you don't actually know you're doing. So have some forgiveness, have some gratefulness for what you have, but also just be aware that, you know, it's not black and white. There's shades of gray, and those shades of gray are not easy to see, because, you know, people are complex, and it's a crazy world out there. So anyway, I suggest you get into shadow work if you've not heard of it. It's a psychology thing, and I think it would really help for you to learn a bit more about yourself, things that you're not aware about your own personality, and also just I guess build more awareness in what you value in another person before you get into a serious relationship, because I think that would really help save a lot of pain if you know clearly what you want in your partner. So yeah, I'll leave it at that, and yeah, thanks for watching, and see you next time.